Welcome to the Disney Wedding Podcast. This show is brought to you by Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, the only guidebook and bridal organizer tailored exclusively to Disney's fairy tale weddings at Walt Disney World. I'm Carrie Hayward, and each week I feature Disney wedding updates, money-saving tips, and interviews with wedding vendors and real Disney couples. I also cover honeymoons, anniversaries, and engagements at the Disney parks and resorts. Join me now as the Disney Wedding Podcast celebrates romance at Disney destinations. Today on the Disney Wedding Podcast, I am speaking with Disney bride Jeanette Izquierdo about her wedding aboard the Disney Wish cruise ship. I thought you guys would be interested to hear how she chose this ship and which sailing she chose and how she planned everything and how it all turned out. So welcome, Jeanette.
Hi, thank you, Carrie. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for being on the show today. I always like to start at the very beginning and find out how you and your fiancé decided that you wanted to have your wedding on the Disney Cruise Line.
So, several factors. We knew that we wanted an intimate wedding, and destination weddings usually help in accomplishing this. So, that was one factor. Another factor, the love of Disney. It was a big part of our childhoods as we grew up in South Florida, and our families like to escape to Disney World for getaways as often as we could, and we still do this today. We grew up as Disney kids. He was the Star Wars obsessed one, and I was the fairy tale loving one. And of course, you always dream of a Disney fairy tale wedding being a Disney kid. And the cruise decision, actually, it ultimately boiled down to affordability, convenience of planning, and the excitement of it being our first Disney cruise. It fit our budget, and it kept the planning aspect extremely simple, because with a Disney cruise wedding, or with any cruise wedding, the options are limited, right? And I personally appreciated that. Less decisions, less stress.
That's awesome. How did your friends and family react when they found out where the wedding was going to be?
Well, both of our parents were extremely excited. They're avid cruisers, and they had never cruised with Disney before. As a matter of fact, all of our guests were actually either first-time Disney cruisers or first-time cruisers, which made it that much more special and exciting for everybody that joined.
That's wonderful. How many guests did you invite and how many were able to be there?
We invited about 75, and ultimately we were joined by 35. We were a total group of 40, including us and our photographers.
Got it. Now, how did you choose the Wish for your cruise?
The Wish was love at first sight. When I was in the planning stages, the Wish was a brand new ship and it hadn't even sailed yet, right? And I saw there was a post on Disney's blog that showcased the Grand Hall. And I instantly fell in love with the fairy tale castle inspired Grand Hall, which that is where we ended up holding the ceremony. And my husband loved the New Orleans inspired aspect of the Bayou, which is where we ended up doing the cake and champagne celebration. And to add another layer of magic, we chose one of the holiday sailings, which having the backdrop as the decor just made it extra special.
That's awesome. So then did you customize the standard cruise collection wedding package elements at all?
We did. The only thing that we upgraded was the cake, which we chose the nautical cake, and then also my bouquet. So what I did with my bouquet was I went with the Ocean Elegance bouquet. I made it 50% larger, and I removed the calla lilies. I just didn't like the look of it, but it turned out beautiful. And that was pretty much it. We kept everything else standard.
What flavors did you choose for your cake?
We ended up choosing vanilla as the base, and then we did two different fillings. One of the fillings was amaretto, and the other filling was the hazelnut crunch.
Can you talk a little bit about the DIYs you did for your event?
Yeah, definitely. So for the bridesmaids, we DIY'd the bouquets, right? We did bubble ones, and around the bubble ones, we did faux flowers, which turned out great, and they were a huge hit. What else did we do? We also did aisle decor, right? The Disney Cruise offered like floral. I didn't really like floral options that they had, So I thought I'd do something better, they turned out great. We did a Mickey shaped reefs and they turned out beautiful. Oh, we also did, when they announced us as husband and wife walking into the cake and champagne celebration, we also DIY'd little Mickey shaped jingle bells to welcome the bride and groom. I think that's about it. Well, we did welcome bags for our guests. We spent a lot of time on that. I guess it was important to us, right? We wanted to make sure that, our guests felt appreciated, right? We used the Cricut a lot for that. So we DIY'd the welcome bags. The welcome bags, we bought the base, but we also did like custom signs on the Cricut for the bag. We added a Pirate Night bandana for guests to use. We added hand sanitizers in the bag, a lanyard in the bag, beach towel holders. We added in little cruising ducks for them to hide. We also customized some door magnets. We added some water bottles in there, some treats, sunglasses, and we also did a welcome letter. So we put a lot of effort into that, just in wanting to make sure that our guests felt appreciated.
Got it. And then how did you get those bags to the guests?
Oh, that was interesting. We had a total of 40 guests on there, right? So what we did was, so the guests that were close to us the night before departure, we handed out half of them the night before, right? The night before departure. And then the other half, we got cardboard boxes. We placed them in cardboard boxes. We also took on board with us 2 collapsible wagons. We found out that those were allowed. A lot of people don't know that those are allowed. We put all of our wedding stuff on there, right? Part of that was the bags. And then we actually walked in with them and scanned them through security. I would say, as a tip to future brides, if you decide to do this, make sure you put them in cardboard boxes that will fit through the scanners, right? Because the boxes ended up being too tall. And we had to take out the welcome bags from the boxes and pass everything through the scanner. But the idea of cardboard boxes is you could just, toss it after you're done, right? So yeah, so that was quite an adventure, but it worked out. So we got them through security, the 6 that were remaining. We ended up meeting with the guests on board and passed them out as guests boarded, right? And I would say that was, I would say, one regret, because Disney also offers, like, for $2 a bag, you could drop them off at guest services and they'll deliver them for you, which takes away the aspect of having to run around the ship and pass them out. So it depends on what you want, right? I wanted that interaction and welcoming the guest, but it was a bit of a challenge, carrying them around and finding the guests while they're there.
Got it. Okay. Now, I know a lot of cruise couples are a little bit concerned about the hair and makeup situation on the ship because you never know who you're going to get at the salon. What did you decide to do about your hair and makeup?
Definitely. It is a look of the draw. What I decided to do with hair and makeup was, our wedding coordinator did pre-warn us that they're not great with hair and makeup, but they are better with hair than they are with makeup. With that feedback, what I decided to do was I took the risk in booking my hair at the Untangled Salon. And then I had a plan B. I figured that if I didn't like how it turned out, I could always fix it myself, because I'm pretty decent when it comes to hair. And then for makeup, what I did for makeup was I gave my sister-in-law the task of makeup, and we planned for it, right? We did trials at home in preparation for the big day, and it turned out great.
That's a great idea. Did you guys bring your own photographer or use the ship's photography service?
We brought our own photographer. Photography was, I would say, the most important aspect to us, right? Similar with hair and makeup, it is the luck of the draw, because with onboard photography, you never know who you're going to get, right? We felt that bringing somebody on board that we researched, that we were able to choose ourselves, plan with the photographer and build trust was more important, right? So we did bring onboard photographer. So another thing that I wanted to mention, when it comes to bringing your own photographers, you have a lot more flexibility. And it's kind of like a make your own photo opportunities that you get when you would bring your own. Like, you get to capture getting ready photos, portraits around the ship, the timing, right? Sunset photos on the deck. We were even able to schedule firework and pirate party shots. and coordinated a session at Castaway Cay, which is something that you will definitely not get with onboard photography.
That's a great point. Yeah. Can you give my listeners a timeline of how the wedding day ran?
I started wedding morning by finding the prettiest rainbow outside of my stateroom balcony, and that just set the whole day. I felt like it represented a new hopeful beginning. Myself and the rest of the girls of the bridal party all went to get our hair done at the Untangled Salon, and the groom went to get some pampering at Hook's Barbery. The girls did makeup and finished getting ready at the bridal straight room while the boys met for some pre-drinks at the Hyperspace Lounge. So the fairy tale magic of the Grand Hall, while she's all done up for the holidays, served as the backdrop to the ceremony. Before the start of the ceremony, I was hiding from view, right? And so some Disney magic happened for me. I was actually surprised to see Mark from the Untangled Salon. He was the one that did my hair. He showed up to touch up my hair, which was to me was like an example of how the staff on the ship went above and beyond, you know? They really did go above and beyond. And then one of my favorite things was incorporating the kids. So we included our very own flower girls and ring bearer versions of the fairy godmother who tossed petals from her little pumpkin purse. We also added our own little Cinderella who was escorted in her carriage, and Prince Charming transporting the rings in the glass zipper in our professional. And also with a flick of the fairy godmother's wand, she revealed the bridal entrance at the top of the staircase. And this is where I had my ultimate princess moment. It's something that I really will not forget. Like pausing at the balcony and immediately locking eyes with my fiance, walking down to him as slowly as possible. And then to match the theme, walking down the aisle to So This Is Love. The captain officiated our wedding, and we added a personal touch by reciting our own vows. And then we did have some right after the ceremony to take portrait shots with our wedding party and guests. And then after the ceremony, us and our guests were escorted to the Bayou. With the New Orleans flair and the overhead flourishing magnolia blossoms, it really was the perfect setting for our reception. This is where our wedding planner, Fumika, who was amazing by the way, and a Disney cast member that went above and beyond. She made a short introduction and speech, followed by speeches and toasts from the maid of honor and the best man. And then after posing for some cake cutting photos, we had our first dance, followed by mother son, father daughter, and we also had something special. We had a stepfather and stepdaughter dance. The cake was then passed out while the dances were happening, and then we had a few minutes left to mingle with our guests and take additional photos. We had another Disney magical moment where one of the bartenders surprised us with a serving of beignets, which is one of our favorite Disney snacks. It was short and sweet, and we didn't feel rushed at all. It ended at 2:30, and then we met with our photographers for portrait and sunset shots around the ship, which included we also brought some lifesavers as props on board, and we took some lightsaber shots. Then this all happened while our guests did our own thing. We then met up again with our guests for dinner at 1923, and the party kept going after that. Another special thing that we did is that we had invited our guests to dress up for Pirate Night, and then we met up for some group shots. We definitely had a blast with this. My husband and I took the assignment seriously, and we transformed into Pirate Bride and Pirate Groom by adding some accessories to our wedding attire. We spent the rest of the night watching fireworks and ended up with some dancing at the pirate party.
That's awesome. So when you guys were planning, what were some of the most important aspects of the event where you focused your attention or your budget? It sounds like photography was one of them.
Definitely. So budget-wise, I would say photography was number one. We did splurge on bringing our own. That was definitely number one. And then without meaning to be, the wedding dress actually turned out to be a decent size splurge on the budget. I wanted to achieve both like, the princess and the mermaid style. And when I found this one, I couldn't say no to it because it had the fitted mermaid style dress. And it came with a detachable skirt, which achieved the whole princess look. And also the detail of the neckline and the sleeves even matched the theming in the Bayou because it had little flowers on it. So that turned out to be a decent size of the budget. Attention wise, I would say the welcome bags. We spent a lot of time and effort in putting those together for our guests.
Okay. Now, were there any aspects that were less important where you saved your money or just your effort?
Definitely, I was able to save money on hair and makeup by not bringing my own hair and makeup team, right? I know a lot of brides do this, right? Because of the uncertainty with the salon on the ships. Another one I would say is floral. We DIY'd the aisle decor with the Mickey shaped reefs, and my bridesmaids bubble wand bouquets.
Great. Okay. And then what ended up being your favorite memory of your wedding?
Oh, so hard. I want to say if you ask my husband, he says it was watching me come down the aisle, and being able to incorporate the kids in the ceremony was very special to him. The moment really felt like it was just us and our guests, but in reality, when looking back at the photos, we can see so many others were stopped to watch us. We felt like we were treated like royalty. And then for me, it was similar. It was the moment that I described when I was doing the timeline of the day, with the flick of the fairy godmother's wand, the bride entrance at the top of the staircase where I had my ultimate princess moment. I'll never forget pausing at the balcony and immediately locking eyes with my fiance and walking down to him as slowly as possible, taking it all in while the pianist played So This Is Love. I can't have one favorite moment. So another one, another one was the stepfather dances. It served as a very special and emotional memory for me personally. My stepfather never cries, and during our dance was the first time anyone has ever seen him cry. So I take pride in that. And then also my daughters gained a stepfather in this union, so it was important for us to highlight that, and we did that with the stepfather dances.
That's wonderful. Now, did anything go wrong or just not turn out like you expected?
Yes. So the dining rotation. This is the first time that any of us cruised with Disney, and the way that their dining works is unique. So with my guests joining us for this wedding cruise, it is a big expense, and I wanted to make it so that they were able to choose what dining rotation time they wanted. So with Disney Cruise Line, there's two dining rotations. There's a 5 p.m. and an 8 p.m. The bulk of my party wanted the 5 p.m., which was great because I wanted the 5 p.m. too. But there was one group that was fixated on doing the 8 p.m. dining rotation. Now, this really wouldn't be an issue, but I wanted all of us to have dinner on the wedding night to get the full feel of a wedding, right? Of a traditional wedding, to have dinner together. And my wedding coordinator warned me. She said, the way that the dining rotation works, it's very hard for us to accommodate this request, right? To get somebody that's already on the 8 p.m. dining rotation on the 5 p.m. dining rotation for one day because of how I guess the tables are arranged. So she did pre-warn me we could put in the request, but it's not guaranteed. So she did put in the request for me. And then when I got on the ship, I made sure to go and talk to the dining team because you could go talk to them on embarkation day and put in any special request. Confirm with them that the special request got to them. And again, he told me, look, it's not guaranteed. Okay, no problem. So the day of the wedding came, it wasn't looking like we weren't going to be able to accommodate the other guests that were originally on the 8 p.m. dining rotation. I was heartbroken. I'm like, no, I really wanted that to happen, all of us to have dinner together. And I want to say 15 minutes before it was time to be seated, we got a call saying, we're going to be able to do it. We're going to be able to accommodate you. So again, Disney Magic came in for us, and the staff on the ship was able to make that happen.
That's fantastic. Now, was there anything that seemed like a big deal beforehand or you were worried about, and then it turned out not to be a big deal?
Not really. No. The only thing I would say is cruise weddings are just the planning aspect is to me is just so easy, right? Because They give you a package, you have limited options, you pick your options and you're done, right? The aspect of planning a cruise wedding is just it keeps the things that you feel like they're a big deal away, should I say, right?
That's great. Is there anything you would have done differently knowing what you know now?
I didn't get enough photos with my daughters. I mean, we got plenty of photos, but I didn't get enough with me and my daughters together. So I think what I would have done differently is just made sure to plan that better, right? And then another thing I would say is try to relax. Everything goes by so fast. So I probably would have scheduled some moments of just like reflection, right? I think that's it.
Do you have any other tips or advice for future Disney cruise couples, maybe those who want to do DIYs?
Yeah, definitely. Specifically for future Disney cruise couples, I would say find a good travel agent. Especially one that's booked Disney cruise weddings before. I'll tell you that they will help guide you through the process because you kind of have to be your own little expert. The land coordinators are there to answer your questions, but they will not offer you information, right? So I would say find a good travel agent that will help you because they will also serve like a little mini wedding planner. Another thing I would say is get on Facebook. Find those Facebook groups that you could connect with past brides. That was extremely helpful to me. Another thing that was helpful to me in the planning was carry your podcast. I listened, I think, to every single cruise collection podcast in planning, and it served as a huge help for me.
That's awesome.
And I think for DIY, DIY, get the whole family to help. I had, come with the idea and connect with your family, bring in your family to help you. I had my family here working on the Mickey shaped jingle bells with me. I had my family helping me with the Mickey shaped wreaths for the aisle decor and the welcome bags. Yeah, we had an assembly line when putting those together. So for DIYs, get your family to help.
Who did you use for your travel agent?
So for my travel agent, I use Natasha Jimenez from Natasha Mickey World Travel. You could find her on Facebook. You could find her on Instagram, and she was wonderful. She also was a past Disney cruise bride. So when I tell you find a good travel agent, that'll be your savior. She was wonderful. She also served as a mini wedding planner for me and helped me with a lot of questions.
That's fantastic. Well, Jeanette, I think you've offered a lot of great tips and advice for anyone who's interested in getting married or having a vow renewal on the Disney Cruise Line, and I appreciate your taking the time.
Thank you.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Carrie Hayward, inviting you to join me again next week for another episode of the Disney Wedding Podcast. Past shows and tons of photos for each episode are available on my website, DisneyWeddingPodcast.com, or listen in your favorite podcast app. And for instant answers to all your Walt Disney World wedding questions, check out Carrie Hayward's Fairy Tale Weddings Guide, available as an interactive ebook with continual free updates at fairytaleweddingsguide.com.